Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a really unique corner of health knowledge, the world of materia medica. Think of this as your shortcut to understanding a fascinating substance, one that's been observed and documented in, well, incredible detail. Our source for this deep dive is a classic, excerpts from William Boericke's Homeopathic Materia Medica, and we're focusing specifically on something called Calcuria carbonica.
That's right. And Materia Medica, it's essentially a highly detailed compendium, almost like a forensic file, really, listing symptoms and characteristics tied to individual substances. So our mission today is to unpack Calcuria carbonica, you might also know it as carbonate of lime, or it's derived from oyster shells. We want to understand its core identity, how it impacts the whole body, and the specific, sometimes quite surprising manifestations it covers. Get ready to connect some dots you might not expect. It paints a very, very specific human portrait.
Okay, let's unpack this foundational idea then. Boericke calls Calcuria carbonica a Hahnemannian antisoric and a constitutional remedy par excellence. What do those terms, really tell us? What does that mean for our listener?
Right. Well, Hahnemannian antisoric comes from Samuel Hahnemann, homeopathy's founder. He had this theory of underlying chronic issues or miasms, and blora was a big one. So an antisoric remedy like this one, Calcuria carbonica, it aims to tackle those really deep-seated chronic tendencies, not just fleeting symptoms, and constitutional remedy par excellence. That really just means its action is about the whole individual, their fundamental makeup. Its main action is centered in what's called the vegetative sphere, basic bodily functions like metabolism, digestion, growth. And impaired nutrition is really the keynote here.
Okay, so it goes deep, affecting growth, nourishment, the very foundation. What kind of person then are we talking about? What does a Calcuria patient look like?
The description is quite specific, yeah. It paints a vivid picture, often described as fat, fair, flabby, and perspiring, and also cold, damp, and sour. It's quite a combination. These are often people of a scrofulous type.
Scrofulous, what does that mean exactly?
It points to a tendency toward glandular swellings, thick and large tonsils, swollen lymph nodes, that sort of thing. They also take cold easily and tend to have increased mucus secretions. So lots of colds, sniffles.
Okay, and for children?
For kids, it might look like this.
Where?
They grow fat, but are also large-bellied, maybe have large heads, pale skin, a sort of chalky look, sometimes called the leukophlegmatic temperament.
Leukophlegmatic.
Yeah, suggesting pale, maybe a bit sluggish, prone to fluid retention. And they might crave eggs, but also, and this is fascinating, eat dirt, chalk, or other indigestible things. They're often prone to a specific kind of diarrhea too. But what's really striking is its deeper action. It stimulates the periosteum, that's the membrane covering bones, and it actually raises blood coagulability, so it acts as a hemostatic, helps stop bleeding. It's also linked to easy relapses and interrupted convalescence.
Wow, so they might get sick easily and then struggle to fully recover.
Exactly. It suggests a kind of underlying fragility in their healing process.
That's a powerful starting point. Let's move into their inner world now, the mind and head symptoms. What kind of mental picture does Boericke paint? Does it connect?
Oh, definitely. The mind is typically apprehensive, often worse towards the evening. And there are specific fears mentioned. Fears, loss of reason, misfortune, contagious diseases. It's almost like their mental state mirrors that physical vulnerability we talked about. You also see forgetfulness, confusion, low spirits, anxiety often with palpitations, even obstinacy, and often a real aversion to work or exertion. It suggests a kind of sluggishness, both mental and physical.
And how does that apprehension or even just thinking manifest physically?
Yeah.
In the head specifically?
It's quite direct. Slight mental effort produces hot head. That's very telling, isn't it? An immediate physical reaction to mental strain. There can be a sense of weight on top of the head. Headaches too, often coming with cold hands and feet. Or headaches triggered by overlifting or mental work, often with nausea. But one of the most striking details, icy coldness in and on the head, especially right side.
Icy coldness, specific.
Very specific. And for children, you might see open fontanelles, the soft spots on the baby's head staying open longer, an enlarged head, and lots of perspiration that actually wets the pillow. This head sweat is a really distinctive sign, reinforcing that whole damp theme.
It's remarkable how these physical sensations like coldness are linked so directly to mental states like apprehension. So we've got the inner world, the head. How do these tendencies show up in how a patient interacts with the world? Say, through their senses, their mouth.
Okay, eyes first. Boericke mentions sensitivity to light and lacrimation watery eyes, especially in the open air. Also things like spots and ulcers on the cornea. Interestingly, chronic dilatation of pupils is mentioned, and dimness of vision described as if looking through a mist. Again, maybe hinting at that sluggishness or lack of clarity.
And the ears.
Ears can have throbbing, cracking noises, pulsating pain. Deafness is noted, especially from working in water, which connects right back to that sensitivity to dampness. You also see polypi, which bleed easily, those small growths, and scrofulous inflammation with mucopurulent otorrhea, basically ear discharge, often alongside swollen neck glands.
So that theme keeps coming back. Sensitivity, dampness, glandular issues. What about the nose and mouth?
The nose can be dry, paradoxically, with nostrils sore, ulcerated, but also a strong tendency to takes cold at every change of weather. Again, that vulnerability. Polyps can show up here too. In the mouth, a persistent sour taste is common. The mouth might fill with sour water. That sour aspect of the constitution again. For kids, delayed and difficult teething is a key sign. Also bleeding gums, toothache. The tongue might have a burning pain at the tip, often worse from warm food.
That sourness seems really pervasive, and the cravings you mentioned earlier sound quite central, especially for digestion.
Absolutely. Digestion's a big one. There's often an aversion to meat and boiled foods, but here's the really fascinating part, a key diagnostic clue. That strong craving for indigestible things, chalk, coal, pencils, along with eggs, salt, and sweets. Milk often disagrees, causes sourness or upset. And sourness is just a recurring theme. Frequent sour eructations, sour vomiting. Also, a general dislike of fatty foods, and they lose their appetite easily when overworked.
That craving for chalk or coal is just so vivid. How does this digestive picture continue into the abdomen?
Well, the abdomen is often sensitive even to the slightest pressure. It can be distended, feel hard. Boericke mentions inguinal and mesenteric glands swollen, lymph nodes in the groin and abdomen getting swollen. Gallstone colic is also noted. And remember how we said children might be late developers? They might also be late in learning to walk. This links back to that effect on bones and development.
Ah, right, the periosemium connection.
Exactly. And the stool can be large and hard, or the opposite, whitish, watery, and notably sour. Children's diarrhea, with that specific sour quality, is mentioned quite clearly.
It really does raise the question, how do all these pieces fit together? The fears, the weird cravings, the physical discomforts, they seem so different.
They do seem disparate, don't they? But that's really the core idea of materia medica, and especially constitutional prescribing. It's not just a random list. The insight is that these aren't separate issues. They're all different expressions of one fundamental underlying imbalance within that specific person. Boericke, and others like him, meticulously observed how these specific symptoms tend to cluster together, forming a unique identifiable type or picture. So the cravings, the fears, the cold feet, the head sweats, they all point back to the same root disturbance.
It's seeing the whole pattern.
Seeing the whole pattern.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, let's keep building that pattern. What about other major systems? Respiration, heart, back, limbs. Okay, respiration. Often a tickling cough, troublesome at night, but it gets better with expectoration, clearing mucus in the morning. Also, painless hoarseness, typically worse in the morning. And suffocating spells, tightness in the chest, specifically worse going upstairs or slightest descent, must sit down.
Ah, connecting back to that difficulty with exertion.
Precisely. That physical flabbiness, the general weakness, the chest itself can be very sensitive to touch, percussion, or pressure.
And the heart, any specific characteristics there?
Palpitations are common, often at night or after eating. Sometimes with a feeling of coldness around the heart area, which again reinforces that general theme of coldness and maybe sluggish circulation. In the back, pain as if sprained, especially from overlifting, suggesting that weakness or vulnerability again. And renal colic, so kidney stone pain, is also listed.
Okay, so weakness, sensitivity, coldness. What about the extremities and sleep? Let's round out the picture.
Extremities often present with cold, damp feet. The description is vivid. They feel as if damp stockings were worn, and sour foot sweat. This really brings that cold, damp, and sour characteristic to life, doesn't it? Another specific detail, soles of feet raw. Sleep is often restless. Ideas crowding in her mind prevent sleep. That connects to the apprehension we talked about. Horrid visions when opening eyes are noted too, and this is very specific. The same disagreeable idea always arouses from light slumber. Night terrors are also possible. It points to a mind that's quite disturbed, even during rest.
These details are just so incredibly specific. They create such a unique profile. What about general signs like fever and skin conditions?
For fever, Boericke notes patterns like a chill at 2 p.m. begins internally in stomach region. very precise observation of how it starts. And night sweats are common, especially on head, neck, and chest. For children, that really memorable image, sweat overhead in children so that pillow becomes wet. Again, that distinctive head sweat, pointing to some kind of moisture imbalance.
And the skin, how does that reflect this overall state?
The skin is often described as unhealthy, readily ulcerating, flaccid. Small wounds might not heal readily. This really highlights that impaired nutrition and general sort of debility that's central to the calcarea picture. Warts, especially on the face and hands, and petechial eruptions, those tiny red or purple spots, are also noted.
Okay, finally, the modalities. What makes things better or worse? This seems crucial for really understanding the operating instructions for this type.
Absolutely crucial. So symptoms are generally worse from exertion, from ascending like going upstairs or uphill, and critically, worse from cold in every form. Cold water, washing, damp air, wet weather all make things worse. Also noted as worse during the full moon and when standing for long periods. Conversely, things are generally better in a dry climate and dry weather, and also, interestingly, better from lying on the painful side. If you connect that all back, it really underscores that deep sensitivity to cold and dampness, reinforcing that core profile we started with, the cold, damp, and sour individual.
This has been such a detailed deep dive. We've built this comprehensive portrait of the Calcarea carbonica type. To wrap up, what else is important? Its relationship to other substances, maybe, or how it's used.
Yeah, Boericke also details its relationships. There are known antidotes and complementary remedies. For instance, it's noted as useful after sulfur where the pupils remain dilated, or when pulsatilla failed in schoolgirls. These suggest specific clinical scenarios or sequences. And there's an important caution. Sulfur should generally not be given after calcarea. This points to interactions practitioners need to be aware of.
So there's a whole system of relationships.
Exactly, and it gets even more specific with related compounds, showing the level of precision, like Calcar calcinata, calcined oyster shell, is noted specifically for warts. Calcarea ovarum, toasted eggshells, is mentioned for backache, leukorrhea, even controlling suffering from cancer. And calcar for recurring or chronic boils, especially in specific locations like shin bones or the ear canal. Each slight variation gets its own detailed profile.
It's incredible detail, not just one-off observations. And the dose. How is it typically administered?
The text mentions 6th trite, 30th and higher potencies. 6th trite refers to a specific preparation method involving grinding with lactose, indicating a certain dilution level. 30th and higher potencies mean even more diluted forms, which in homeopathy are often thought to act more deeply. And there's that specific caution. Should not be repeated too frequently in elderly people. It really underscores the need for careful, individualized use.
We've really taken a fascinating deep dive today into Calcarea carbonica. It's an incredible example of the kind of detailed observation you find in Materia Medica. It's just a powerful reminder of how specific and, well, comprehensive these historical records aim to be, building that holistic picture.
Indeed. By looking at these really precise descriptions of the symptoms, the patient profiles, you get a unique perspective on the human condition, right? And the intricate ways different elements were believed to influence our well-being and how health or ill health expresses itself.
And that definitely leaves us with something to think about. How might our own understanding of constitutional types, or even just health in general, shift if we looked at it not just as isolated symptoms, but through this kind of meticulously detailed, specific lens focused on the whole person?
A great question to ponder. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep digging deeper into the knowledge that makes you truly well informed.